bring in national trial attorney Mike Jaafar. Michael, today we've seen some testimony, a bit from a nurse that says the defendant was being examined and he lied, saying, I was in this scuffle and I grabbed a guy's hand. He had a knife in it, and I turned that hand around, and then I used his own knife in his hand. He's going to get up on the stand likely as a self-defense case. We expect it. Does he lose credibility now? This is the second major-ish lie that he told. The defense tried to push it off of he was trauma, and he just mixed up the details. That's not a mix-up. That's a lie.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious why he lied. He didn't know he was being taped. It's that obvious. It's pretty simple. In his mind, before he knew he was being taped, right, there was a half dozen other people. It was a river. It was wet. There's no way somebody had a cell phone recording me, right? And there was me. It's more plausible for me to say that one of them had the knife and I just took the knife, because hypothetically speaking, let's just say he did not have the knife. Somebody else had the knife and he took the knife from that person. This case wouldn't have even been charged, right? So he made the right calculation before he lied, that if there's no evidence that I brought the knife, I'm all scot-free, right? So that's why he lied. It was dumb, right? Because we're in 2024, right? Like, I mean, obviously people have cell phone footage of everything, right? So that's pretty obvious why he lied. So he does lose credibility, to answer your question. Loses a lot of credibility, but what are you gonna do, right? When you're a defense attorney, you have to make soup with the ingredients that are given to you. You can't pick your favorite ingredients and make every single soup. That's called a fantasy, right? When you go to law school, the exam questions are not, what are the elements of manslaughter or murder one or murder two? They say, here's this fact pattern. It's right down the middle. Argue it both ways. There's no right. There's no wrong. How you argue this is how well you will do on this exam. And that's exactly what these defense attorneys have been given. They've been given an exam question where he's got some great evidence in his favor, but he's got some terrible, terrible evidence against him. These lies are one of them.
Mm-hmm. Enough not to put him on the stand?
No, you have to put him on the stand. There's too much here. And a kid died. If he stands mute, he'll be in that jail for the rest of his life. He's got to explain the lies. He's got to explain the inconsistencies. He's got to explain the lies to the police officer when he arrested him. He's got to explain all this stuff. The only person to explain it is going to be your client.
Mm-hmm. He's a smart guy, an engineer, speaks 5 languages. I'm sure they've worked with him and are getting ready for that moment. Let's get a break in here. Back to Court TV Live. We'll get you back into the courtroom up in Wisconsin in just a bit, but first an update on the arrest of singer Morgan Wallen. He was arrested for allegedly throwing a chair from a rooftop bar Sunday night in Knoxville. This is his booking photo. You can see he doesn't seem too concerned about it. The chair landed close to 2 police officers. It was thrown from a 6th floor balcony. Neither one of the officers were hit. Nobody was injured. He faces 3 counts of felony reckless endangerment, 1 count of misdemeanor disorderly conduct. He is currently, he was released on $15,000 bail early this morning. Michael Jaafar is still with us. Michael, you know, people on Twitter making fun of using his lyrics. Last night you let the liquor talk, and, you know, stuff like that. But it's no laughing matter. He was this close to possibly hitting a cop with a chair from 6 floors. That thing is moving. How serious is this? 3 felony reckless endangerment counts. We're not talking about jail time here, are we?
Very, very serious. And I would not be shocked if we don't find out in the next 2 weeks that the state attorney increases the charges, because this could conceivably be an attempted murder, right? Throwing something off a 6-story balcony, even if it's just like a small stone, it could kill somebody, right? Right, especially throwing chairs. And so if you do that, you know, by law, it doesn't matter if you were drunk. It doesn't matter if you were on drugs, because you made an overt step to become drunk, right? So once you do that, you are responsible for anything that you do while you're drunk. And so he's clearly drunk. And I know you say this is his mugshot. It could be his wedding photo, right? It could double as one or the other, right? So this is going to be brought. This is going to come back to haunt him. This stupid picture, this stupid face. This guy looks like a complete idiot, a Class A loser, and entitled. I would not be shocked if these charges were increased to something more serious. So yeah, the answer to your question is, Ted, I think this guy's going to have to see the inside of a jail cell.
Really? See, I would think the opposite, that he would use his influence in Nashville there on Broadway to get out of this and skirt through it with a little class of some sort. Who knows? But we'll see. It is very serious. And to your point, a chair from 6 floors up is it's basically a weapon, and it could be absolutely lethal moving at that speed. So we'll watch what happens with the Morgan Wallen case, see what happens over the next few. Now we'll check in with Michael Jaafar, national trial attorney, and this case is going to be a lot of the same that we saw play out in Lori's case with some nuanced differences. You have one of the biggest differences is you have a guy by the name of John Pryor sitting next to Chad Daybell, and he is, well, he's a lion. He gets into a courtroom. He's very smart, but he's also very aggressive, and you're going to see a different scenario. Let's face it, they laid down and watched Lori drop her attorneys the first time around, for the most part. This is a death case as well, adds another level of complexity. What are you going to be looking for, Michael Jaafar, as this jury that was just seated starts absorbing the evidence?
I'm looking for several things. The first thing I'm looking for is the gravity at which they're going to throw Lori Daybell under the bus. I mean, they are going to do it so aggressively, so viciously, that you'll think to yourself, this woman has been his enemy since day one. They're going to drop her to the ground. They're going to roll her over 10 times to Sunday. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm looking for is something that I'm very curious about. People always talk about attorneys and they say, I want somebody who is aggressive. I want somebody who goes into the court and yells at people. That doesn't play well with jurors. We know that at least almost half the jury pool in this case are female. It doesn't play well for females. They're already coming into this case thinking to themselves, I've known a guy like Chad Daybell before. I hate people like Chad Daybell. I've met a guy before who manipulated me, who controlled me, right? That's the narrative that they come into this case for, and there's no such thing as an impartial jury, right? I don't even think his attorneys even had an inclination that they're going to get a jury that has ever heard of this case. Every single juror is going to come into this case with an opinion. If they come into this case with that opinion that he's a manipulator, and then his attorney comes in there and tries to school them, I think it's going to play very poorly. So I'm really looking and curious to see how meek his attorney, because he has to be meek. The most powerful trial attorneys are the ones that are meek in a courtroom. They're meek. Their presentation is meek. It's colloquial. It's kind. It's professional. It's very, very soft spoken, right? I'm looking to see that. But if he comes in there aggressive, hey, you're better suited to go for like a bull taming show, not for this. This is a very, very,
I think you're going to see.
Trial.
I mean, he's aggressive when he needs to be, but I've seen him in action, and he'll read the jury and play it. And women on the jury may help him, because I would think that his defense is going to be, listen, my guy, Chad, is the ultimate nerdy dude who wrote these religious books and would go around and talk to people. Look at him. And then one day, Lori showed up, and she was the manipulator, where maybe women can associate with that. Who knows? This is going to be, I mean, the women man thing, I don't know if it really matters anymore with juries much, but they're going to have to thread a needle if they have a prayer here, because let's face it, both of these guys were in lockstep, and 2 kids ended up dead along with someone's wife, and it's his wife is really going to make people disgusted. Really, you killed your wife for this woman, Lori Vallow. Now, was he hypnotized by Lori's beauty? Well, that's not an excuse, is it, Michael? I mean,
no.
This is I don't know how you thread any sort of needle with the bad fact pattern here. Is it just a matter of saving his life?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The facts against him are not as bad as the facts were against his ex-wife. They were not as bad, because at the end of the day, they still were not his kids, right? The murder was still done by her and her own family, right? These were not his children. He did not pull the trigger. He was not even in the, I don't even know if he was in the same state or if he was not in the same town as when the murders happened, right? So the facts against him they're not great. they're bad, but they're not nearly as bad as his wife. And so that's why I think that their approach is going to be, yes, thread the needle, but threading the needle is going to include pounding Lori into the ground. They're going to pound her. They're going to eviscerate her. They're going to eviscerate any mention. It's actually comically ironic because he's one of those doomsday prophets. Well, she's got her doomsday coming, and he's going to be the executioner.
And the other X factor is this Alex Cox. This is Lori's brother, who was the family assassin, according to the state, and for anybody who's looked into this comes to that conclusion. He was there. He's the one that everybody believes is responsible for the actual deaths of Tylee and JJ, and of Tammy. But the bodies are on Chad's back lawn. I mean, JJ and Tylee are found in Chad's on Chad's property. That is a very difficult problem for the defense. We'll see how it all plays out. Let's check in with Matt Johnson. He just walked out of the courthouse in Ada County. There he is in Boise. Matt, all right, we've been reporting. We have a jury. What were your observations?
We have a jury, and it was completely dead silent in the Ada County Courthouse, in that courtroom number 400, the same courtroom where Lori was convicted. Chad sat there with his hands folded and would sigh down at the numbers that John Pryor, his defense attorney, would cross off. And then it was a deputy that would walk between the defense table and the state as they each took turns making selections and crossing off numbers and then handing it to the judge. At the end of the day, it was a long wait, and there was a sidebar, and then everyone that their number was called was excused. So that was about 31 people because the 32nd person didn't show up today. So we have a jury of 18, and this involves 10 men and 8 women. They range anywhere between 30s and 60s. Everyone is Caucasian, and they're being read additional instructions today, and they're being told that opening statements in this death penalty trial against the Doomsday Prophet is Wednesday.
Fascinating. And it's Wednesday. Interesting that they're pushing the openings to, I guess, allow, or do we even know, allow both sides to prepare and get jurors set? Any reason given for the, sometimes we see judges say, oh, let's do it right now in the afternoon.
Right, they're hashing out some housekeeping right now, and our field producer Tiffany is still in the courtroom. But from what I gather, we can't ask these attorneys any questions just yet until after their opening statements, because only the attorneys in this case are under a gag order. Ted.
All right, that makes sense. Matt Johnson, thank you. That's the breaking news. Matt will be there for the opening statements in the first part of this trial, and we will be watching it very closely. Michael Jaafar, last word before we hit a commercial break. Does Chad take us the stand? Is this a Hail Mary we might be anticipating, or are the questions just too much when you're dealing with 2 dead kids in his backyard?
Ted, I hate it when you make me think so hard, right? This is going to be a tough one. Depending on how the evidence comes out against him. You asked I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question, because that is the question of the day. It's a tough question to answer. It's so difficult. You're right to get there, because at the end of the day, if they throw her under the bus, he's going to have to take the stand and say, look, I had no idea what this lunatic was doing with her brother, right? What the heck do I have to do with any of this stuff? They buried it in my they buried the remains in my backyard, but what do I have to do with the murder, right? The murder happened before they were buried, and I have this massive property, and she lived there. Where else is she going to bury? If she did something nefarious, where is she going to cover it up? She's not going to cover it up at the neighbor's house. She's going to cover it up at my house. I was a victim just like everybody else. I'm just an author, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think that's the playbook that they're going to employ. So to answer your question, he might have to take the stand if the evidence trends in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really get across that it's Lori and Alex's fault, and I had nothing to do with it unless you can explain yourself. Michael Jaafar, as always, thank you. Appreciate it.